dead things and the hideous horror on how. I've gotten a lot of comments from the last couple of videos, specifically about the tracking for the wings, how to keep it from swaying side to side. And thank you, by the way. I appreciate all the comments and suggestions. I'm happy to see that people are following along, so thank you. But I felt I had some explaining to do about what I intended with this this video series, and you see the frickin' thing just keeps going on and on and on. But what I intended was to show the creative process, one haunter's creative process. When I first started going on to the chats years ago, one of the things that was said to me and to some of the other prop builders out there was, oh, well, I thought you just came up with this prop in your head and it was all worked out, and then you just built it and blah, there it was. And it doesn't work that way for me. For me, I've found creativity, whether it be music writing or whether it be, writing, the lyrics and stuff for whether it's a witch scene or we've done it for songs, any of that creative process, and prop building especially, for me, it's a twisty and turny and a serpentine type of thing, and I go down paths, and there's happy accidents and there's unhappy accidents and there's dead ends, and that for me is just a creative process. I mean, let's face it, people, some bad things were done to this brain by a very bad man, namely me, and so it probably doesn't work the same way that other people's brains do. So here I'm going to kind of explain a little bit how the why, the thinking behind that tracking, and where I've gone with it now. So here's the spine. It's all disassembled now, because basically I'm going to have to go where I didn't want to go. So when I was first trying to figure out what to do with this, I realized right away that I would need some sort of track, or it was going to do that back and forth sway that was originally shown in episode, 5 or something like that. I knew that was going to occur. And I felt that the simplest way to deal with it would be just to simply cut a line into here, cut a slot into there, and then run a bolt through it and up. Thought about that. The reason that I didn't go down that path is because I didn't want to weaken this board. You can see I've kind of marked out where the extremes of this are. So literally I have to cut within a half an inch of this bottom. So basically a half an inch up, there will be a cut line in here. And cut to about here. Now right above this cut is where the motor mounts. And that motor is really, really powerful and really, really torquey. So much so, if you ask my friend Hallstaff, he actually had one of these wiper motors break his thumb. So that shows you how much oomph these little puppies have. So what I've been concerned of all along here is that if I cut a hole into here, I've now further weakened this whole structure, very close to where I have a motor, putting a lot of torque on things. And I didn't want this to maybe telegraph one way, telegraph the other way. And I thought that was a very valid concern. Now, after some of the experiments that I did, you may not have seen it in the last video, but when I was running the gargoyle, one of the wings tips actually caught a power cord, and just the action of getting hung up on that power cord popped the wings out of this track. Now, when it's like this and it's all stripped down, that's not much of an issue. But when this is all sealed up in whatever material I'm going to be using, but when everything's all buttoned up, I am not going to have the luxury of popping that back in. So unfortunately, for me, I'm going to have to cut that slot into here. I think I don't really have a choice in the matter. I think if I leave the design the way it is right now, the potential is definitely there for those to pop out of the track. And if it does, I am pooched. I don't want to cut into this for the reasons stated below or above or earlier or sometime in this frickin' video. But I think I'm going to just have to do it. It's going to have to be the lesser of two evils. So I'm hoping my decision to cut into this doesn't pay off bad dividends down the road. I guess we're going to see. Okay, so what I am doing, I took my my level, because it's a good straight edge, blocked it out. I have these handy dandy Dremel thingies. And so what I did, marked out what my distances were. This butts up against it. I don't know if you can see that, sitting in like that. And as you see, this piece is wider than the bit is, right? Bit's kind of small compared to it, so what I had to do is do a cut and then undo this, move it over a little bit, and so right now that is excellent. It looks like it's going to nicely hold a 1024 bolt, which is what I'm using. So here's open. Here was one of my other fears from doing this. See, the blade pulled, cut a channel in there. I think I'm going to be able to work it out, but I'm not sure. So what I did is I just cut off that sharp tip and kind of rounded it this way, so that when this bolt is traveling up and down, it's going to hopefully not catch and drag into here, getting jammed up into this area. I don't even know if I can put anything on here to seal it. I don't want nothing like glue, like hot glue would work, because it would cause drag over that piece. Cut that edge down too. Okay, I'm going to try some 5-minute epoxy in there and see if I can at least fill that in somewhat. So what I did is I mixed up the 5-minute epoxy, and then before I laid it in, I put a piece of electrical tape there, and then laid the 5-minute epoxy and then folded this tape over onto here, hopefully in an effort to keep everything in there and smooth and not moving around while it begins to set up. I'm going to let that sit for a while and see what happens. Here's open. Okay, so last night I placed a 5-minute epoxy in here, let it cure overnight, even though it is 5-minute epoxy. And this morning I went to test and see how brittle it was. Grabbed a pair of needle nose pliers, and this section in here just shattered out completely, which I kind of figured it would. It is staying in the channel that was cut in here. I don't know. I don't know if this stuff is going to be the best, or if I should just go in there and put some hot glue in there. At least, you know, pros and cons. This stuff may shatter, and then I got a real problem. The hot glue is obviously going to be a lot more sticky, and there may be some drag there, and you know, I guess the motor's powerful enough to overcome that, but could catch it and pull it out anyway. So I don't know. The only logical thing to do, other than cursing loudly and throwing punches in the air, is to assemble it all and run it for an hour and see what happens. So I think that is what I'm going to try and make happen. So I've had this running for a while, and I think I've dodged most of a major bullet. If you can see, the crank is turning counterclockwise, so it's pulling it against the straight edge and pushing it against it as well, instead of pushing it on the other side. So I think it's going to work. Occasionally there's a little thing where it gets hung up, but I've been running this basically 30 seconds at a time for, you know, the last hour basically, and it seems to be doing okay. So here's open.